Hello, everybody, and welcome to another one in our series, Breaking Down Barriers. My name is Chris Igwe, and I take you through some ideas and thoughts that I share in my book called Breaking Down Barriers, My Journey from a Small African Village to the World Stage. The world stage being whatever you want it to be, but in my case, I have been on world stages from China to the west coast of the United States, into Africa, and of course into Europe throughout. So it's just some ideas. We spend a little bit of time together to discuss what I believe are some of the fundamentals of how you can grow wherever you are, whatever your plans are, expectations, or your vision of yourself. These are just little sound bites of ideas and thoughts that I want to share with you because they have helped me in my journey in my life, and I hope that it does the same for you as well. Today we're going to talk about be creative in times of conflict. Be creative in times of conflict. Now, you may turn around and say to me, look, I'm not creative. I'm not a creative being. Well, I challenge you on that. We are all creative. We all have, from the moment we're born. Remember and imagine, obviously you were a baby, so you didn't know, but how you manipulated your parents, your brothers, your sisters, if you had siblings, your grandparents. There are little ways in which you use those neurons, those ideas, those things that you create, and as you evolve, you actually express them in a very different way. So why, when we become adults, do we suddenly decide, well, I'm not creative anymore? I would recommend very strongly that you stop and you think about that, because you are creative. We are creative. And what I want to do in sharing in these few minutes with you is to say, we can be creative in times of conflict. But let's start out with conflict. What is conflict? Well, conflict is everyday life. It's your marriage. It's your relationship if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend. It's your family. It's your children. It's your parents. It's friends. It's your work, your boss, your subordinates, whatever the environment. The world is full of conflicts. And I'm not talking about geopolitical conflicts and major wars, which we know are taking place. Civil wars. I've lived through a civil war. I know what it's like. I don't need to look at the news or read the newspaper or read articles online about the war. I know what wars are. But here, what I'm talking to you about is your own reference to conflict. First of all, what is conflict to you? And perhaps the most fundamental thing is that you may say, well, I don't want to get involved in conflicts. I want to stay away from it. Now, that may be the good plan and the good intention, but have you traveled on public transport recently? I know that when I travel on one particular line, which I don't use too frequently, thank goodness, but it's a regional railway system, and there are always squabbles and fights and discussions and disagreements on that line. It could be at the airport, someone like me who travels a lot. You may get bumped off a flight. You may be moved up into a higher class or moved down or whatever it happens to be. There are moments of struggle and challenge that we all feel and we all experience. They can be small things that can be very irritable, and they can be big things that are challenging and you need to find ways to resolve. Now, most of all, let's be honest, we try and find a way to resolve a conflict, don't we? Every conflict is something that we want to get away from or resolve as quickly as possible. That's human nature. But very often we think somebody else is going to resolve the conflict. I'm saying no. You are part of the problem, perhaps. And even if you're not, you are part of the solution because you are involved in that environment. So let's come back to you and me. Let's ignore what happens on the train lines or buses or wherever, or you're in your car and there's some moment of aggravation between two aggressive drivers. Those are things that are outside of your control. But what about those things that affect you, that affect your family, either because you're contributing to it or it is affecting you? And what I'm saying is, find a way to be creative, to find a solution to that problem. And the solution can be as simple as your willingness to discuss it. Your willingness to discuss the problem, the conflict, the challenge. Let's come back to marriage. I've been married for a very long time. Is it plain sailing all the time? Absolutely not. But the commitment that my wife made to me and me to her is that we will always find a solution to a problem, whether it's between ourselves or with the children. Because again, going back to what I said at the beginning about creativity, children will find a way to influence one parent or another. But my wife and I always made sure that whatever one child said to her or to me, we would make sure that we wouldn't give an answer to that problem, which could be as simple as I want to go out and I want to stay out late, or I want to travel somewhere and I'm going with people that we don't know, but we want to know about. That adolescent, that challenging moment, we would always make sure that we'd hear, we'd listen, and then we'd talk about it. We'd come up with a solution and we put it to our child or our children. So whatever the conflict is that is happening, you can find a solution by starting a dialogue, by listening, by taking note, and then by giving an answer. Or you can be the one who steps into it and says, I have an idea. I have a solution to this problem. Be creative. Don't get into adversarial situations. Avoid as much as possible getting lawyers involved. Avoid as much as possible going a legal route. Try and find a solution that is harmonious. And I've used this on many occasions, corporately, in real estate deals where I've worked within global brands, or whether I've been involved on behalf of clients, helping them negotiate their own deals and their own solutions. I've used it in my church, where as a member of the leadership, I am part of a group that we discuss things. We don't always agree. There are challenges, disagreements, yes, conflicts, and we have to find a way through it. And sometimes they're the craziest ideas. And I'm encouraging you to come up with those ideas, whatever they happen to be. We were selling our house in the Netherlands when we moved from the Netherlands to France. And literally on the day of signing, we thought we'd go in and just check the house out, which we did. And the heating system literally blew up as we were there with the purchasers. The house started flooding, or the basement anyway. What do you do then? Everything's agreed. We were literally going to the notary's office to sign the agreement. Of course, the world just stopped for us. We'd spent months trying to sell that house, and we did eventually. And I came up with the notaire, we're all sitting there, and I came up with a couple of ideas that they hadn't thought about, and my wife was okay with it. And we said, here is how we're going to solve this problem. They'd never heard of it. They'd never come up with it, but we did, and it solved itself. Now, sorting out with the insurance company was a whole different thing. It took me about 5 years of getting lawyers involved to be able to resolve that issue of the central heating system blowing up. But that was a whole different thing. But I still came up with another creative solution around that. So I encourage you strongly, think about it. Be creative in times of conflict, because Ronald Heifetz, one of the individuals I quote, because I have lots of quotes in my book, he's a senior lecturer, and he said at Harvard University, and he said, conflict is the primary engine of creativity and innovation. Ronald Heifetz. Conflict is the primary engine of creativity and innovation. Because you see, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the issue, the bigger the conflict, although it doesn't have to be big. Like I say, this is about you and me. It's about how do we find a solution to a problem that is in our sphere, that we can deal with, we can handle. We're all looking for creative ways to solve problems. I encourage you to do so as best you can. And I leave you with, at the end, there's a question that I asked here. What is the worst conflict that you have been in? The worst conflict that you have been in? What do you recall about it? And how did you resolve it? Now, if you resolved it as a plain, straightforward situation, fine. But then what about now? What conflicts, what challenges, what issues are you finding now? And how can you find a creative solution? That's what I want to do, is to push you to go into your inner being, your inner core, and find a solution that is worthy of resolution of that conflict. It may be small, it may be big. It doesn't matter what it is. But the point is, the more you do it, the more you learn, the more experience you have. So I hope this has resonated with you. If it has, please feel free to share, like, comment, and I certainly look forward to seeing you on one of our future videos. Thank you.